G'day, welcome back to the channel. A follow-up on the video regarding the Google Wing drone delivery service. A lot of feedback on that video. Go and read the comments. It's really interesting what people have to say. We've got people who have been part of the Wing operation chiming in, giving their point of view. We've got people who live in the area telling us how things are going. So it's really enlightening to read those comments. Go and look at them now before you watch the rest of this video. I think you'll find it well worth a few minutes of your time. But now I want to move a bit further forward, because I mentioned that Google really isn't in the game of drone delivery. Why are they running a drone delivery operation when they really have no intention to deliver stuff by drone? Well, it's about the end game, and the end game is much bigger. Now, drone delivery is never going to be economically viable. That's worth a whole separate video, so it will be a separate video I'll be posting fairly shortly. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not a subscriber, because you might miss it. Otherwise, I'm sure Google won't be promoting these videos to the general masses for obvious reasons. So yeah, go and subscribe if you want to see what else is coming up on the subject. But the thing I want to look at today is the end game. Why are they investing all this money in a drone delivery business if that's not what they intend to do? Well, the answers become pretty clear when we look at a submission that Google made to New Zealand's Ministry of Transport. Now, the New Zealand Ministry of Transport recently published a discussion paper on enabling drone integration here in New Zealand. And they called for submissions from the public, from businesses, from local councils, from anyone that wanted to have an input. They said, well, just email us or send us in your submission. And of course, Google did. Google Wing sent in a submission. And I think it's worth taking a look at it. So here is that submission. They sent it in on Friday, the 4th of June, 2021. And let's have a look at some of the salient points, the key points. Let's look at the introduction. It's always a good place to start. It says, Wing welcomes the opportunity to respond to the Enabling Drone Integration consultation with the Ministry of Transport. The consultation represents an important step forwards in facilitating safe and responsible UAS operations at scale in New Zealand. Wing offers the following comments based on our experience as a UAS designer, manufacturer, operator, and UAS traffic management service provider on 3 continents. That's really important. This really just says basically this is their end game laid out in the first paragraph of their submission. They want to be a UAS traffic management service provider. They want to provide a UTM and then use that UTM to become a service provider. And we'll see why that's important, and we'll see the inducements that they're offering governments. And honestly, let's cut, I'll call a spade, the bullshit that they're spewing out in order to try and convince politicians to let them have their way. So what they're doing, let's look at the background. Wing is an aviation company that enables the delivery of small packages by drone as a safer, everyone wants safety, right? As a safer, faster, and cleaner alternative to pickup or delivery by road. Wing has developed a small, lightweight, 5 kilos, and highly automated aircraft, which means nobody's flying it, there's no visual observer, for safe deliveries to home, and a range of UTM capabilities to help diverse operators share the airspace. So they're saying, yeah, we're doing the UTM thing. You know, we are already doing the UTM thing. We've got the experience, we've got the background. You know, you can trust us. Okay, so this is the picture of the future. This is drones delivering stuff to your house. This is apparently what's going to happen. They go on to extol their own virtues again, saying Wing provides commercial drone delivery services on 3 continents. Well, actually, they don't. They don't, because their drone delivery service is being provided for free. That's not the basis for a commercial operation. You cannot give stuff away. I could make an incredibly successful commercial operation giving away $5 notes, but it's not a sustainable business model. And that's exactly what Google are doing. Wing are giving away drone deliveries, giving them away. Of course, people are going to lap that up. Oh, there's 100,000th delivery due very shortly because it's free, and everybody loves free. If it's free, I'll have 2. So yeah, but they don't say that. They say it's a commercial drone delivery service. It's not. It is a giveaway. It is a freebie, and of course freebies don't count really. Today, Wing provides commercial drone delivery services on 3 continents with operations in Australia, Finland, and the United States. Wing has completed tens of thousands of delivery flights to customers in 4 cities, including 2 capital cities, Helsinki and Canberra. I think the Canberra trial was canned because they all complained about the noise. Anyway, Wing operates commercially beyond visual line of sight. We can't. Overpopulated areas. We can't. Along flexible routes, which generally means roadways. We can't. With one fleet manager supervising multiple aircraft. Now, we need 2 people to fly a 500-gram recreational drone by FPV. You need 2 people to fly a toy drone FPV. You've got to have the pilot and the visual observer. But Google gets to have multiple drones operated by one person in a darkened room who doesn't even have an FPV camera on those drones. But this is safe. Apparently that is safe, but we're not safe. Something that weighs 10 times as much without a camera, and you've got multiple drones with one person, is safer than a 500-gram drone in the hands of an experienced drone pilot with a high-definition video camera up the front that gives you a 160-degree unobstructed field of view. Apparently that isn't safe, but the man in the darkened room with only a map overlay and an ADS-B receiver, apparently that's safer. But again, I told you this was bullshit. This is what they're spewing to the governments of the world. Now, of course, these are the areas that the pretty pictures and things. But this is again what they're pitching to governments, right? This is to the New Zealand government, this submission, and they're saying that this is what we're doing. Look, and this is the picture they want to paint: a sky filled with drones, not just a drone here and there, but a sky filled with drones. And here's the picture to prove that it's going to happen. That's what they're predicting. And then they're saying, well, you'll need corridors in the airspace because you don't want these drones flying anywhere. So we've got the UTM, the unmanned traffic management system that will enable us to corral these drones into narrow corridors so they're not going to get in the way of manned aircraft, and they're not going to, but they see they're flying over the top of buildings here. They're not going to pose a threat to the public. These clouds of drones will all be flying in these narrow corridors, but you will need our technology, our UTM, our traffic management system, and our service that is based on that system. And we've got them already. We're already using them in 3 countries. We're the people to turn to, right? So there you go. And there's the craft are saying, oh, it's super wonderful, super fantastic. And they're saying drones can help make our cities safe, connected, and sustainable. These are all words governments love to hear. They love to hear safety. They love to hear sustainable. These are the things that are the hallmarks of good government. So this is appealing to government's naivety, you might say. Might be naivety. Wing offers delivery by drone as a safer, faster, more sustainable alternative to transport by road. Today, our communities rely on roads to pick up or deliver their everyday basics from food and groceries to medicine. COVID-19 has accelerated these trends, demonstrating the importance of road delivery as a lifeline for household and local businesses. However, transport by road is unsafe, inefficient, and unsustainable. Even though we've been doing it for hundreds of years, it's not sustainable, and it cannot keep up with this demand. Then they go on and waffle. Anyway, now this is where it really gets into the bullshit territory. They're saying drone delivery with wing is safer than driving, flying, or walking a package to a customer's home. In a single US city, drone delivery could avoid up to 473 million kilometers per year in road travel. That's the equivalent of taking over 25,565 private cars off the road. By reducing road use, drone delivery could avoid up to 580 road accidents per year in a single metropolitan area. Well, this just sounds fantastic. This is just brilliant, isn't it? Who would not want to get 25,000 cars off the road and save people from having to have 580 road accidents a year? And that's just in a single US city alone. Oh my goodness, governments will be looking at this going, this is brilliant, this is fantastic. We won't have to expand our road network, but we'll save money, brilliant. And then this is where the bullshit gets even thicker. I'll read it first. Wing can help connect residents and local businesses with deliveries across 10 kilometres in under 10 minutes. At scale, drone delivery could place 3 to 8 times as many local businesses within reach of a household in Finland, saving residents in Helsinki up to 1.5 million hours in avoidable travel for shopping or pickups. By expanding geographic reach and improving service, drones could help generate 2.2 billion Australian dollars in new annual sales for local businesses in Australia. Just pause for a moment. I'll just read that again. By expanding geographic reach and improving service, drones could help generate 2.2 billion Australian dollars in new sales for local businesses in Australia. How do they work that out? On what are they basing this? They're telling us that drone deliveries will suddenly grow the economy by $2.2 billion in Australia. I see no evidence to support this. Where is the evidence? All we've seen is that if you give drone delivery away, 50,000 people a year will take advantage of it. Well, if I give $5 notes away, a hell of a lot more than 50,000 people would take advantage of it. There's no way to verify these figures. And also, it's weasel words. Remember I spoke about marketing in the last video, how they say things that sound like one thing, but if you look carefully at the meaning of the words, they mean something else. And if we look at the key word here is could. Could. It's not will. It's could. It's like, it might. There's no guarantees, but governments are filled with politicians. Politicians are not the brightest bulbs in the socket. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. If they were, they'd have real jobs. They wouldn't just be politicians. And to give you an example of what I mean, here in New Zealand, one politician, member of parliament, proposed that all transport vehicles in New Zealand should be fitted with magnetic fuel savers, because that would save the country many millions of dollars a year in transport fuels. These magnetic fuel savers apparently improve the fuel economy of your vehicle just by having a magnet on the fuel line. And he proposed this. He proposed it to the government, and really, seriously, what are these people smoking? We all know magnetic fuel savers are a sham. It's a scam. But this guy sucked in, doesn't know a thing about science, read the brochure, thought, ooh, we need these. And if he'd had his way, he would have passed a law that required all transport vehicles to have these things fitted at huge cost to the operators and for no benefit. That's what happens. Politicians usually don't have a background in science. They're usually failed woodwork teachers or something like that. They're not, as I say, not bright people, and Google is taking advantage of that. They're pitching this to the politicians, saying, well, we could generate $2.2 billion in extra business in Australia, but people will read that and go, oh, it's going to generate $2.2 billion in extra local sales. Fantastic. And of course, governments always looking to grow the economy, because when the economy prospers, they look good, they get voted back in, everybody's happy. So they're going to look at this and go, oh, we want that. We want that. What do we have to do to get this $2.2 billion? Oh, let's read on. Oh, this would be great. So they also go for the other heartstring, the other reaction point for government's sustainable. Remember, I mentioned sustainability earlier. And so they go and say drones can produce 94% lower emissions per package than delivery by car in the United States, and lower emissions than gas or electric van carrying multiple time-sensitive packages. At scale, drone delivery could help to reduce 500 to 550,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions per year in Australia, equivalent to the carbon storage of 16 to 18 billion trees. Now, as I said before, this is filled with weasel words. Again, we've got this magic word could, not will. They don't promise to do this, but they say it could. And a rock could fall from the sky and wipe out the entire civilization of mankind. Could. It's not very likely, but it could. And then they say, help to reduce. This isn't going to reduce the carbon emissions by 550,000 tonnes of CO2. It could help to reduce. So even if it does reduce it, it's only going to help. It's not going to be the reason why there'd be 550,000 fewer tonnes of CO2 emissions in a year in Australia. This is weasel word marketing, but politicians with their switched on brains will read this and go, oh, if we do this, we'll save 500 million or 500,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions. Woohoo, we'll do this. It's like, no, people. But politicians, as I say, the fact that Google is operating in Australia without any of the restrictions that you, I, or other recreational drone flies have to face is proof that, at least in Australia, the politicians, they got totally sucked in by all this crap. And notice they're referencing Australia, because this was probably part of a document that was submitted to the Australian government as justification for getting all these wavering, removal of the rules. They don't have to follow the rules because the politicians said, oh, we're going to get a list. They don't need observers. They don't need all these safety protocols that the recreational flyers with their tiny drones have to use. It's Google. And look what they're promising us. Promising us freedom from CO2 emissions, billions of dollars extra sales in our economy. We'll just go for that. Anyway, so now we go on further, because I want to look at where are we? Have I got to the right part? Here we go. This is where they're pitching their service. This is the end game for Google. This is why they're spending all this money on drone delivery. They want to paint this picture of all the sky filled with drones, like that little photo they included in this submission. The sky will be filled with drones. Your economy will boom to the tune of billions of dollars. You will save lives. You will save the planet because your CO2 emissions will drop. All this because we're going to deliver a cup of coffee with a drone. Politicians are lapping it up. Anyway, they say, to support the safe, secure and scalable use of airspace by all, Wing envisions a digital, collaborative and distributed network of USPs. So they're saying, all of this we promise you is contingent on USPs and UTMs. But now they're boxing clever here. They're saying, well, it's a distributed network of USPs. And then they say, well, let me just clarify and collect my thoughts for a moment. Now, governments are going to say, we don't want to give a monopoly to anybody like Google. They've already got enough monopoly. They're getting antitrust suits all over the world. We need to make sure this is going to be a competitive environment, right? We're not going to give you the keys to the skies, Google. So, what do you say to that? So Google have already covered that. They've preemptively covered that response. And they've said a network of competitive USPs can offer automated services to help operators conduct safe flights and focus on safety. USPs will be interoperable, sharing information with other USPs for the purposes of such as strategic deconfliction or network remote ID. And it says USPs are developed by third parties in response to the evolving needs of UAS operators, but in accordance with rules set by the regulator. So they're trying to paint this picture where there'll be a whole lot of USPs. Google will just be one of the USPs. So there'll be competition. And if you don't want to pay the prices charged by one USP, you can go to another one. Because let me make it quite clear. If we look at the NPRM that was presented by the FAA in the USA, their goal was to have all drones fitted with technology that would network back to a central UTM. So you take your drone outside, you want to fly your drone. This is what they want to happen. You have to get your little phone out and call up the app. Then you have to tell it where you want to fly, how high you want to fly, and how long you want to fly for. That will then go to the UTM. The UTM will then log that, and it will debit your credit card or your prepaid credit balance by however much per flight they decide to charge you. Once that transaction's gone through and they've got your money, they will then send an electronic token back through the network to your drone, and only then can you arm it. Only then. You can't just take it out and fly it. You've got to get that electronic arming signal from the UTM, and you must have paid your money before your drone will even arm. Then you can take off and fly. But because geofencing is part of that NPRM proposal, once it's fully implemented, you will not be able to fly outside the area that you have designated as your flight area. If you have designated a 500-yard radius and you try to go to 501 yards, the drone will stop at 500. It will not go any further because the UTM will say, no, I'm sorry, you've only got permission to fly in this area. If you try and fly higher, it will say, no, I'm sorry, you can only fly to this height. And if you try to fly longer than the period you have logged for your flight, the drone will come back and land automatically. You cannot extend your flight because you've only got permission for that area, that time and that height. And that's it. The UTM controls everything, absolutely everything. And you cannot even arm your drone until you have paid the UTM for that privilege. It is a license to print money. It is holding the keys to the sky. And of course, Google wants to be in on that, because if you own the keys to the sky, it's a license to print money. But Google's saying there will be a competitive network. There'll be other USPs and they'll be popping up. It'll be a competitive environment. And I would say, yeah, just the same way that YouTube is competitor to YouTube. Google owns YouTube. It is the single largest platform for user-generated video content. Yeah, there are competitors. There's Vimeo, there's Dailymotion, there's BitChute. But really, you're watching this on YouTube, aren't you? Why? Because YouTube is online user-generated video content. They have a de facto monopoly. Yes, it's true, there's competition, but only in theory. In reality, in practice, it's not competition. There's no competition to YouTube. YouTube is online user-generated video content. And that's what will happen with UTMs. Yes, there will be other UTMs out there, but Google will be the UTM that everyone uses. In the same way that so many people think that Google is the internet. I've seen so many people who, you look at their computers, and when they turn them on, it comes up with the Google homepage and the search query. And everything they do is just typing into the Google search query bar. They think Google is the internet because it's Google. And that's what will happen with the UTM system. Everybody, all the recreational users at least, will use Google because they know Google. And remember, to use this UTM provided by Google, or the USP that Google runs, you'll have to have a Google account. You'll have to have Google login. So you'll log in via Google. So then not only will they be able to charge you for each and every flight, but they'll know where you're flying, and their profile on you as an individual linked to your Google account will grow. More information so they can better target advertising at you, so that they can do all sorts of cool things. They know what you're doing. It means that their advertising becomes more valuable. It's part of an entire program. It's their whole business model is to know as much about the individuals that use their services as possible. And if you have to log every flight with Google's USP, well, they're building up a better profile. So you become more valuable as a target for their advertising. It's part of a very large plan. This is what they're doing. This is the end game. So it's well worth Google spending a few dollars to create some mythical drone delivery service and basically giving away drone deliveries so that they can put hand on heart, drone deliveries are big, we've done 100,000 of them. this is what they're doing. This is a ploy for an end game. The end game is this, to become the USP, the unmanned traffic management service provider, not just in the USA, not just in Australia, but the entire Western world where Google basically exists. So to give you an idea of the scale of this, I think it was DJI published a submission to the FAA's NPRM. They said there was something like 80 million drone flights a year in the USA. I think it was in the USA. 80 million drone flights a year. Now imagine if Google held the keys to the sky and you couldn't arm your drone until you'd paid them $1. Well, it's $80 million, isn't it? Right off the get-go. But let's not forget that that's only DJI drones. There are a lot of other drones out there as well. And all the drones will require payment to fly. So let's say Google has 50% of the market, including recreational, freestyle, model aircraft, all that sort of stuff. And then it becomes, let's say, and that was last year. So let's say it's 100 million flights a year times 200 million flights a year. Now we're talking about $200 million of clipping the ticket revenues if you are the person with the keys to the sky. That's at $1 a flight. What if they decide to say, yeah, let's make it $5 a flight? It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion a year by holding the keys to the sky. You can see why Google is really interested in this particular strategy, why they want to be the people with the keys to the sky. $1 billion a year within a few years. I can see it happening. That is a big business. Why wouldn't you want to be there? And it's worth spending a few $1 million creating a mythical fantasy world where drones are going to fill the skies if that gives you the keys to that kingdom. You can see where they're going. But then, of course, the other thing is governments have been promised all this promise of stuff to the government, billions of dollars in extra economic performance and safety and sustainability and save the planet and all that sort of stuff. But governments don't like paying money. Governments do not like spending money. They like saving money. They like getting money off you and I, the taxpayer. So Google has thought ahead here as well. They have all planned it out. This has been done by very clever people, this whole proposal, very clever people. And they've addressed that objection from governments. And here's what they have to say. The proposed measures are likely to reduce the cost of regulation and enforcement. Hey, that's good. We've got a cost reduction. Governments, ticks a box, reducing costs. And then they say, in particular, the proposed UTM, that's Google's one, capabilities will help promote safety, ticks a box, compliance, ticks a box, and responsible flying, ticks a box. And this is the ultimate bit, while shifting the cost of implementation and service to industry. So what they're saying is, governments, give us the keys to the sky, and we'll do this for free for you. We won't charge you, the government, a bean. We'll save you money by reducing the cost of regulation and enforcement, and you will also get these other benefits that we've promised you, because we're going to charge the people who fly. When they say to industry, what they mean is commercial, industrial, and recreational drone users. We are the ones who will be paying to fly. We are the ones who will cover the costs here. We are the ones who will line Google's pockets with large amounts of cash, possibly $1 billion a year within a few years. We are the people. Governments won't pay a cent. So this ticks every box a government wants to see. It is providing safety. It is providing massive economic growth. It is providing the ability to reduce carbon emissions. It is reducing the need to grow roading networks because it's taking the load off the roading networks. So it reduces costs. And it doesn't cost them a cent. They've gone through and looked at everything and they've preemptively provided all these arguments to say, you should be letting us hold the keys to the sky by making us the USP that runs the UTM. So that's the end game for Google. That's why they're doing this. Don't be fooled into thinking they want to run a drone delivery service. It is just a strategy to establish a need so that Google can come in and say, we have the solution to this problem. And you may think I'm cynical, but I've been around a very long time and I've seen this so many times before. And Google has not become the 5th largest corporation in the world by being stupid. They are very smart. And unfortunately for us, our politicians are very stupid. This pitch will work extremely well. It's already worked well obviously in Australia and in Finland, where they've been given permissions to do things that we couldn't dream of doing. And it's working. It's working. So we as a community, as a recreational community, unless we do something, unless we stand up and say, well, no, we're not having this. We're not having this. This thin end of the wedge has already crept in so far. It was just registration. Then it was an online test. And then it's going to be a remote ID. Then when network remote ID comes in, this is your future, people. You cannot arm your drone until you've paid your money. And Google, well, they're not a charity. Their bottom line is profit. So they will charge whatever they think they can get away with. And where do you go from there? The government will be granting them a license to print money, and we're the ones who'll be paying. So all you people think, no, I'm fine, I just go out and fly on a Sunday. No, forget it. Ultimately, you won't be going out and flying on a Sunday. Yes, in America, they're going to have freers. They'll disappear. There'll be changes. When there's a dollar to be made, freedoms must be taken and returned as paid privileges. You've got to pay for that privilege. It's no longer a freedom. It's a privilege you must pay for. That's the game that everybody plays. So there you go. I hope this isn't too dystopian for you. But in my next video on this subject, I will go through the numbers. I will crunch the numbers, and I will show you just how much it's costing Google for every one of those drone deliveries, and how it is just completely impractical and economic suicide to try and run a drone delivery business, because you can't deliver a loaf of bread that's worth $1.60 for the amount of cost involved in doing that delivery. The costs are enormous. They are phenomenal. You will not believe. In fact, go down and if you've got a moment, go to the comments and tell me how much you think it costs Google to deliver that loaf of bread in Australia. Tell me what you think the cost of a drone delivery is in Australia, and we'll see who gets closest to the figures I've calculated. And I think high. Don't think low, think high. There's a lot of costs involved in that operation. There you go. Thank you for watching, folks. I appreciate the time you've taken. I'm sorry this is another long talking head video. I promise that next time will be better, according to Mr. Bot Grinder. That's it for today. Well, I may do another video later. I've got some other stuff. Got the answers to the Q&A coming up, or the AMA. See how we go. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Overregulation is like a tumor. It's killing our hobby. It must be terminated. Now!